everyone, Krista here. I just wanted to hop on this video and do a quick little tutorial for all of you who were looking at the sprinkler tutorial that I just did on the blog. I know some of you will probably have some questions about it, so I thought it'd just be easier to knock it out and answer any questions I can think you might have. So let's just jump right in here. First of all, yes, I look super tired today. Do I look tired? Yes, I do. Kids are back to school. Everyone's exhausted. I'm exhausted. They're exhausted. Everybody's exhausted. You know, I'm exhausted because I can't sleep because I keep thinking I'm going to oversleep and not wake up to my alarm. And they're exhausted for obvious reasons, just being back to school and everything. So please excuse my face. Anyway, okay, so let's hop right in here. Before summer is over, we want to go ahead and capture some great pictures of kiddos because, you know, summertime is just so fleeting and they're only little once. And yeah, these are some of my favorite pictures, are just kids being kids in the summer, running through the sprinkler and all of that kind of thing. So first of all, let's go over the camera settings because I know that's what most of you will have questions about. If you have not already watched my basic camera setup on how to set up your camera and get it going for any shoot, do that. I'll link to it below. Let's start out here though. First of all, you want to get a card and make sure your camera's off. Get your CF card, pop it in here, and let's go ahead and format your card. How you do that is, I'm using a Canon, by the way. If you're not using a Canon, you might need to use the dreaded camera manual. So I know you hate getting that thing out. I hate reading technical stuff. I'm sure you do too, but we got to get it out every once in a while. So if this doesn't correspond to your camera, just get out your manual. It'll be okay, and figure it out by reading the manual. I know that sucks. But on Canons, you go to menu and you're just going to scroll through with your top wheel until you get to like the 4th or 5th little file folder, and it's going to say format right there, okay? Before you format anything, make sure you have the photos backed up that are on this card, because when you format, it's going to erase everything. So you don't want to lose anything that's on here. Make sure you have all that formatted or backed up before you format, okay? The reason we format is to just give us a nice clean start, helps reduce errors on the card and all of that type of thing. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK. It's going to format for a second. Done. Next, we're going to go to quality, okay? So you're going to use this little wheel up here. You're going to scroll back to the first one. You're going to go down and we're going to choose what type of file format we want it to shoot in. I personally shoot in RAW, but that is a huge file format. It's meant for people who have Photoshop and know how to edit photos, okay? So if you don't have Photoshop, or if you don't want to mess with editing your photos, you just want them to be good to go, we're going to put this into large JPEG, okay? So go ahead and hit your little center button on there. On the top is going to list RAW. You're going to scroll over until you get to the last one that says, you know, no RAW. Okay, so go ahead and shut RAW off. Then you're going to scroll down to JPEG, and you want to choose the JPEG that's all the way to the left. It's going to say JPEG, and then it's going to have an L for large JPEG, and it's going to have like this little mountain hill next to it. Choose that one, okay? That's which one you want. That's a large JPEG. Okay, so we've got that all set up. Now we're going to go to the top and set up the rest of your camera for this shoot. So you can go outside and shoot some sprinkler photos here in just a second. So most of you probably, when you got your camera, it was set on P, which is program mode, basically automatic mode. It does everything for you. You might as well use your iPhone, honestly, if you're going to shoot it on this all the time, because you have zero control over what the camera's doing. Maybe not zero, but close to it. You don't want to use P, okay? The purpose of buying a camera like this is so that you have more control and can make amazing images. If you have it on P, that's not going to help you at all, okay? So we want to switch this to M, which is manual. Manual means that you can dial in all of your settings, okay? So whatever settings You dictate to the camera it's going to do, rather than using its little computer brain to decide what it wants to do. We don't want that, okay? Again, if you're going to do that, just use your iPhone. It's really a lot easier. Okay, set this to M. My goal for you eventually is to shoot on M all the time, okay? And I'm going to teach you how to do that in the tutorial that I'm coming out with here in a few weeks. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so we're on M up here on our little dial. Now, we're going to go over here. We need to set 3 things. We need to set white balance, we need to set shutter speed, and we need to set aperture. So 3 things you need to set. We're going to start out with white balance, okay? White balance just tells the camera what setting you're in. So are you in the sun? Are you in the clouds? Are you in the shade? Are you inside? Are you using a flash? It just helps the camera understand where you are so that it can make the colors really pretty. So we're going to go up here. We're going to click WB, which stands for white balance, okay? WB. And now on a Canon, you're going to use this little wheel right here, okay? So you click this at top, WB, and now I'm going to use my little wheel to scroll, and it's going to scroll around all different things. We're going to be out in the sun, but the sun is not going to be hitting our subject in the face. We're going to have them turned away from the sun. So I'm actually going to turn this white balance onto shade. And shade is like this little picture of a little house with one window and some shade on the side, okay? That's the one you want to pick. So pick that one. What that does is that tells the camera, okay, the person's face is in the shade. We're going to kind of warm up the colors and make everything really pretty, okay? So that's why we're picking this, even though we're out in the sun. Next, we need to shoot, I said white balance. We need to pick white balance, shutter speed, aperture. Next, we're going to pick our aperture. What aperture basically does, in a nutshell, is it decides how blurry the background is, okay? I personally prefer, now this is just a personal preference thing, it's not a right or wrong, okay? I personally prefer blurry backgrounds. Like, I like someone's eyes to be perfectly in focus, and I like the back to be super blurry because I feel like it draws your attention into what me, the photographer, is looking at. So, and that conveys it through the photo. So I love when like a picture of a little boy or a little girl and their eyes are perfectly sharp and then the rest behind just kind of blurs out, because then you're really focused in on their eyes and that type of thing. So that's what aperture does. If you have a very low aperture, meaning like 1.2, 1.8, 2.8, those type of apertures, that's where you get the blurry background. If you have a high aperture, you get a super sharp, crisp background where everything is in focus. But to me, that kind of, it's too, I don't know, there's too much going on. When everything's in focus, it's too distracting for me. I don't like the way that looks. But again, that's just personal preference. So for this, we are going to set our aperture at 2.8, okay? And now, that being said, your lens might not be capable of that. So just set it to whatever the lowest number aperture your lens will go to. You can usually tell this because somewhere on your lens, yeah, right there. Okay, it says 1:1.8. I'm sorry, my voice is kind of raspy today. So you need to, this lens is capable of going down to 1.8, a pretty super low blurry background, okay? Your lens probably might not do that. If it came with your camera, it's probably going to be like a 3.5, maybe a 4.0. But the point again is just set it to the very lowest setting you can to get a little bit of a blurry background, okay? So how you do that on a Canon is you're going to make sure that this little thing right here is pushed all the way up. You know, it goes off, on, and then all the way up to the top. And then you're going to use your little scrolly wheel right here, and you're going to scroll, and you'll notice on the top it will change the number. I don't know if you can see that changing, but this little number right here will change as you scroll with that, okay? So I want you to scroll to the lowest number it will do. We'll say for illustration purposes 2.8, it might be 3.5, might be 4.0. It's not life or death. It doesn't matter, okay? It doesn't, well, it matters a little bit, but it doesn't matter that much, okay? So just set it to the lowest setting. Lastly, we're going to set the shutter speed. Shutter speed is right up here. On a Canon, you'll use this little wheel right here, and you'll go like this, okay? And it's going to change the shutter speed. Okay. You know what? I forgot something. We still need to set the ISO. We'll do that in a second. So this photo that I put on the blog, we did 1/800th of a second. Okay, so set that number to 800. So again, you have shade, white balance. You set your shutter speed to 800 and your aperture to 2.8 or 3.5 or whatever the lowest your camera will go. If you don't have a Canon or it's not working exactly like I said, it's just a different model. Just look in your handy dandy little camera manual. It'll tell you how to change all those things, okay? So let's recap. Shade, white balance, 800 shutter speed, 1/800th, and your aperture is at 2.8, 3.5, just the lowest number it'll go. Okay, last thing I forgot to talk about, ISO. We just need to set that real quick. At the very top, you're going to push this little button. It says ISO. Okay? Push that. Set it to 250th. Okay? And you're going to use this little scrolling wheel up here to set it to 250. ISO, just in a nutshell, it tells the camera how bright it is outside. So if you're in a super bright, you know, it's the middle of the day, high noon, you're going to set the ISO to like 100, let's say. And the lower the number, the brighter it is outside. So if you're in a super dark room and it's all candles and very dim lighting, you're going to set your ISO to like 6400 or higher, the highest you can get it, okay? So, but today, let's not worry about all that. We're going to set it to 250. So last recap here, shade, white balance, 800 shutter speed, 2.8 aperture, or 3.5 or 4.0, the lowest it'll go, ISO 250. Okay, you're ready to go outside. Let's go outside and take some photos. So now you've got your sprinkler set up, you've got your kiddo or your dog or whoever's going to be running through said sprinkler. Let's talk about a couple things with this really quick. I personally prefer for things to be backlit. I don't like people looking right into the sun. First of all, they're going to be all squinty. They're going to hate you. They're not going to look pretty in photos. Nobody likes looking right into the sun, okay? So I always prefer that my subject is facing me and their back is to the sun, or the sun is off to their back side. You know, I mean, it's like kind of off to the corner, but still at their back. It doesn't have to be directly like hovering over their head. But just generally speaking, it's kind of to their back or their back shoulders, and they're facing you, okay? So they're facing you, sun is back behind them. One quick note on this. Much like a magnifying glass, you know, in the sun, you put the sun, the magnifying glass, and then it starts stuff on fire. The sun gets really hot and can do a lot of crazy things when you focus a beam of sunlight through a lens, okay? So the one thing you don't want to do, you don't want to take this and look directly at the sun. It'll burn your retinas. It's not good. Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay? But if it's off to the side a little bit, you know, up in the sky a little bit, you're not pointing your camera directly at it and staring at it. I don't even know that you could do that. I think you would have to shut your eye. But don't do that, okay? I don't want you burning your eyes out. So even though it's backlit, make sure you're not staring directly at the sun through your lens, okay? Okay, so now you're going to have your subject run through the sprinkler. You're going to take some photos and see how they look. Once they run through there, we're just going to hit play on the back of your camera, and you're going to look at the image, and you're going to think to yourself, A, this looks good. B, it looks a little too dark. You know, C, it's out of focus. Those are your three problems you might have. Well, two problems. The first isn't really a problem. So let's say you look at the back of the image and it's too dark. And you're like, well, Krista said, set it at these settings. I don't know why it doesn't. Okay. you know, depending on the time of the day, might be a little brighter outside or a little darker outside than when I shot this photo. So let's say, hypothetically, your image is a little dark. All you have to do, it's real easy, you just have to change your shutter speed a little bit. So you're going to go up here to 800 where it says 800. You're going to scroll this wheel down a little bit. So where it said 800, maybe change it to 500. And that should make the image brighter. So take a couple more photos, run through the sprinkler. Yay, everybody have fun. Now let's come back. We'll look at it again. Now it should be brighter, okay? If it's still kind of dark, and you're like, it still doesn't look that good, just lower that a little bit more. So you're going to go in here, you're going to dial that down to maybe 2/50th of a second, okay? Everybody run through the sprinkler again, look at it again. Should be nice and bright now. I will caution you, you probably don't want to go much lower than 2/50th of a second, okay? Because if you do that, you're going to start getting some motion blur in your photos with everybody running and moving. So probably keep it 2/50th or above if you can, okay? All right, last problem you might have that you probably leave me questions about. Your camera, when you get it, it does autofocus, okay? It's going to try to decide in its little computer brain what to focus on. It doesn't know what a person is. Well, some of them do now, but mostly it has no idea. It doesn't know what a person is. It doesn't know what you're focusing on. It doesn't know what you're thinking. It has no idea. So it just picks something randomly to focus on, and you hope that that's the same thing that you're thinking it's going to focus on. But sometimes it's not. So let's say you're having an issue, you know, you take a few photos and it's focusing on the wrong thing. There's a couple different things you can do. You can either just keep trying and it'll eventually hopefully focus on the thing you're doing. You know, if you just want to keep it easy, you can do that. And you've got some time on your hands. The next thing you can do, which is what I would recommend, is this is simple and easy, doesn't require a whole lot of technical knowledge. You just take your lens right here, it says AF or MF. You just pop that bad boy onto MF for manual focus, okay? And what that's going to do is it's going to shut off your autofocus, and now using your little ring right here, you can focus in on whatever you want to focus on, okay? You can do that now, and you should be able to take pictures and just use this to focus, and you're good. And what gets a little problematic with that sometimes, though, is if your kids are running fast, you know, it's kind of hard to keep trying to, you know, focus. No, run slower. No, run faster. No, don't, you know. That can get a little stressful. So what I recommend doing is if you want to set it on manual focus, just go ahead and put like a little stick on the ground or a little leaf or something and have them stand there on top of that little stick. Go ahead and focus your camera perfectly and then say, okay guys, run through and step on that stick every time, okay? And just wait until they're to that spot and then take a couple photos, okay, as they're running towards you. Just bam, bam, bam. And then just saying, okay guys, keep doing it, let's see who can do it the most, you know? And just every time they come around to that spot, go ahead and take a couple photos. Then that way you don't have to worry about, oh gosh, I'm trying to focus, it's going the wrong way, it's just not working. And that usually works pretty well. Make sure you don't move. Make sure when I tell you to do that, you know, the stick is stationary, you're stationary, you've got it perfectly focused. Now don't walk around and say, hey, you do this and that, you know, because now you've changed the focus. So make sure you stay in your spot and they go to their little spot as they're running through, and that should work great. There are some other more advanced ways to focus using some different drive methods and back button focus. If you're feeling super ambitious, you know, Google that, look it up. Otherwise, I'll go over that in future lessons. But for now, those are the two easiest ways to get you the best result quickly and not get, you know, super confused trying to learn all this stuff. All right, guys, hope that helped. Have fun shooting those kiddos. Leave me some comments below. Show me the pictures you've got. Either leave me a link to what you're shooting or see if you can, leave me the actual picture down there. If you have any more questions, if maybe I didn't answer something that you're having trouble with, leave me a comment below. And yeah, hope that helped. Look for soon my Learn Photography little deal I'm going to put out. It'll teach you everything. So you don't have to listen to my silly little tutorials all the time. You'll say, Krista, I already know how to do all that. I don't need to listen to that. I also have a getting started YouTube video that if you haven't watched, you should watch because it kind of goes over some basics that are good to know. And yeah, appreciate you watching. Hope that helps. Have a great time with your kiddos, getting some good summer memories. And thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.